books for, I guess, since '89, since her first books. No, maybe even longer than that. As long as you've been writing, Annie, is how long I've been reading your books.
Wow.
I never dreamed I'd get to meet you in person. And I want to thank you so much for being willing to share your experience, strength, and hope. She has a story to tell, and what I love about Annie is she can talk about very serious things, very deep, hurtful things, and then in the next sentence make you laugh till you almost want to wet yourself. So, Annie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you want to share your story, and then maybe it'll open it up for questions and answers. So I give you Anne Lamott, my friend.
Thank you, Tennie. I love you, and I'm so glad that we get to be in each other's lives now. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I'd love to take questions. I'm a writer, and as Tennie said, and so I do readings and talks and stuff, and I talk forever till the cows come home. But what I find that people love most is the chance to ask questions. So you can ask about anything, whether it's addiction, recovery, how we come through, what to do when we're stuck, anything about writing, anything at all. So let's see, I'll be 69 on Monday, which is just so bizarre to me because I think I'm 51. My grandson, who lives with us half time, is about to turn 14. And a few years ago, I guess he was turning 10. I said, "Oh, I thought you were like 4. He said, "I live here. How can you think that?" And I said, "You'll see. You'll see." So my inside person is 51, and my outside person, looking here at my driver's license, will be 69 on Monday. Through the grace of God, I survived almost every possible addiction and disease besides gambling, which my sponsor says is a big yet for me. I live in Marin County, the same county where I was born and raised. So I know literally thousands of people here. A lot of the kids I grew up with still live here. A lot of the kids that I grew up with died of addiction, suicide, and all the things we die of without a path and some amazing company, which is grace of God, what I was given in 1986 when I got into recovery. So I was just a shy, very strange looking child, and that was pretty devastating, to look so different and to have this frizzy hair, and I was just so small, so thin. And in the 50s, people felt that it was appropriate to comment on other people's children. Strangers would comment on my hair while I walked by. Strangers would ask my mother if she fed me. I think there's been a slight awakening and a slightly higher consciousness about that now, but it was deeply shaming. And my parents couldn't stand each other. I think they started out like hot and heavy. And what you did then in the 40s was that you got married. And it was just an incredibly stressful household. My parents were very hip, avant-garde. My father was tall and handsome and looked like a Kennedy. And my mother was very short and from Liverpool and gained a huge amount of weight. And my father just had contempt for her, which meant he had contempt for most women, any woman who was not tall and thin and buxom. And so I realized I was disgusting. And I can say that that is one of my deepest kind of core fears, that I go to in dreams and in crisis, that if you get to know me well enough, you'll just run screaming for your cute little life, because I'm not who I seem. This is amazing. I wrote a piece about this the other day. I woke up from a dream where my best friend Janine said that she was breaking up with me because I was disgusting and needy and unlovable, and everyone thought this. And then she repeated, everyone. And it's like as if I need someone else to tell me this. So but I did, because of the miracle of program sponsors, God, and what a show off God is, I got to do the deep dive into that old core of infection and do some really deep healing around that. And now, I'm a little bit better. If I were God's West Coast representative, which I think I am uniquely qualified to be, I would have a magic wand. And when people wanted the healing, I would just tap them and they would be healed of really traumatic, scary childhoods. But regrettably, God instead uses life and pain and challenge and struggle and love. This great German mystic in the, I think, 1500s named Meister Eckhart said, if the soul could have known God without the world, God wouldn't have created the world. And that's really been my experience. The world is how I have slowly come to know God and find union with all that is divine and true, and not these terrible, terrible things I believed about myself as a child and all the way through. So I have to adjust the heater. It's early in California and my office is so cold you could hang meat in it, and I've got the heater on, but I need to adjust it, but I'm not leaving. I'll be right back. Okay. All right. I think that's better. Okay. Oh, it's definitely better. Okay. So what happened was I got bullied a lot and I tried to save my parents. And those are what my two main memories from childhood. I just spent all of my life force doing what you do if you're a frightened and ashamed and shy child. I became a super achiever, and that is true in everything I touched. I had to, because I was trying to keep the Lamott ship from sinking, and it helped my parents feel so much better about themselves. And I became a kind of a pathological people pleaser. I got all my value from how you saw me, what you thought of me. I, as all good codependents do, I gave all of my life force to trying to help people feel better about the catastrophes of their life, especially men. What I'm best at, what I have been best at my whole life, is helping men feel better about their abuse and domination and the suffering and isolation it causes them. So eventually I had started having sex with them to cheer them up. But until then, I just became a great conversationalist, and I was like a little geisha girl, in my family. I did an event last night and I'm really hoarse. I'm hoarse and cold, but I don't care. But I do have a lozenge. So, that's my childhood, is trying to help and save and fix the world, trying to do well enough that you wouldn't see how really ruined I am. And I was great with the thing that saved me, like Jesus saved other people. We were atheists in our family, avant-garde, intellectual atheists. We worshiped the New York Times. I think there was like a golden cap of the New York Times at the breakfast table, and we bowed down. It was all that mattered, was that male East Coast intellectuals would think that you were a good family and a bright girl. And what I was good at was girlfriends, and that's what I'm good at now. I had a lot of fun because I had a gift for great friendships, and that saved me. And in fact, tomorrow, most days I hike with Shelley Adams, who I was best friends with at 6 years old, or three or four times a week. And tomorrow I will be having lunch with my, I played championship tennis till I was 17, and my doubles partner was named B. Kilgore. And then I'm having lunch with her. So like, I have this gift. It's really the reason I have so much faith in God and in life, is because of the quality of my friendships. So that saved me. However, at about 12 is 1964. So it's about to be the summer of love in the Bay Area where I live. And so my parents, there's alcoholism, and my mother were binged and dieted. Those were her two modes of eating. So what a coincidence that I developed a massive eating disorder. But when I skipped a grade too. So I was younger and tinier than everybody else. And I was a pretty desperate child. And I remember when I'm 13 or about to be 13, I think I'm 12 actually, my best girlfriend in class, Lisa Kampmeyer, steals a couple of beers, 16-ounce Coors. I don't remember if I have pants on, and I can remember the brand of the first beer I chugged. And she sold them, and we chugged them. And it was like God had reached down and touched me. And that's my drunkalogue. That when those first few sips clear my throat, I can breathe again. And I don't think I'm funny looking and the wrong size with bad hair and da 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 da. I think I'm just fine. Now, that would be nice if I had an off switch and I could chug a beer and get high. Now, I can tell you, I don't think I've ever gotten high once in my life. I drink because I drink till I'm impaired. I mean, I just, I become really funny and charming, and I used to feel like, what's the word? I used to feel like part of, instead of this strange girl with awful secrets. My father had a million affairs. My mother got heavier and heavier, blah, blah, blah. I felt like I was one of, part of, which I probably didn't feel again on my own until I'd been sober for a few months. But anyway, so I drank. So I just, we drank Summer of Love. So there's weed everywhere. I have an older brother. We can steal pot from him. There's what Tom W. calls the non-habit forming marijuana that I then smoked on a daily basis till I got sober when I was 32. When I was 14, I always found really beautiful girlfriends too, because and became either the mascot as I was through junior high, or like the therapist for them, so they could never be, they could never get rid of me. And I had these really, really pretty girlfriends who lived in Ross, which is about 15 minutes from where I am now. And it's where the really wealthy people, we didn't have nearly enough money. My father was a writer, and they did. And I get their hand-me-downs, which would be totally hip and au courant. And anyway, they all had pretty long, we're 13 because Hair has just come out. And all we do is smoke dope and listen to the soundtrack from Hair. And they all comb each other's hair because they've all grown long hair, and I can't grow long hair. My hair doesn't grow long, it grows like up and sideways. And but we've discovered spuliules, which is we would shoulder tap the winos, which I know we don't call them winos anymore, but I can't remember what the correct word is. And we give them a few bucks, and then we give them money to buy a half gallon of Gallo Hardy Burgundy, which has a whole 1.5% higher proof. And it turns out, I mean, when I was coming up, it was like it wasn't night train, but it was like a cheap, honest red wine. Of course, Gallo then eventually becomes world famous, and at 4, it's Hardy Burgundy. But so what we do is we mix it with like Mountain Dew or 7-Up, and we call it spuliules. And the other girls, this is so weird, drink part of a glass of it and then they stop because we've smoked up and they're high. But I don't drink to get high, right? And I drink the first drink very quickly, and then while they comb each other's hair, and we listen to the soundtrack from Hair, and then they go downstairs to get snacks and for the munchies, and I finish their drinks, or I chug a couple inches off their drink, so ideally they don't notice. And I remember getting the whirlies at Ross, and a normal person would go, oh shit. And what I did was just go, whoa, you know, and kind of wait it out. And then wait it out so that I could have a cool, refreshing beer to sort of stabilize. I heard someone say something in a meeting once that that before we get our incarnational life here on this side of eternity, we're all gathered in a huge crowd in heaven, and God says, could all the 7 step forward? No, I want everyone here to count off 1 to 10. Everyone counts off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then God says, could all the 7 step forward? And the 7s are the alcoholics and the addicts, the eating compulsives. And, you know, it's about 1 out of 10. And I was one of them. I was a 7. And I discovered a lot of ways to mood alter with food. And there were 2 main ones for me. One was to binge, which is great, except you gain a lot of weight, and that was scary. To binge alone, ideally, you know, to get a whole cake or a whole bag of Oreos and to go in the car or behind my bedroom door and to eat the whole thing and to feel my nerves bathed in the fat and sugar. The other way was to diet and to starve, which I like just as much. I've been anorexic several times. I probably weigh about 135 right now, and I've weighed almost 30, and I'm 5'6", you know, so I'm pretty lean medium, I'd say. And 30 pounds less than this is when life really starts happening. And I know some of you have this, and it is to restrict food is a very, very powerful thing for me when I do it. It's very vibrational, you know, you just feel like, and you have control. And for me, you know, and lack of power is our dilemma. And all the ways that I could have any sense of control as a child followed me into my 20s and 30s and still follow me. For instance, just backtracking, when I was a child with these unhappy parents and I had a baby to raise. My parents had a little boy when I was 5. Oh shoot! I know what I was going to say. If I believed in my shame that I was the reason my parents were so unhappy, and my father drank too much and had girlfriends, and my mother ate too much, then I had my only shot at control, right? Because then I could do better and I could need less. And that is sort of my default comfort zone. Of all my toxic comfort zones from childhood, where I felt a modicum of control, that's my, kind of lost that sentence, but that's my go-to place, is that I do better and I need less. So anyway, so those are my teens, and I just drank at every opportunity, and I mostly was heavy. I went from emaciation when I started high school. And I mean, emaciation, that's what people told me I was. I was just a skinny girl, you know. There's a group of people called skinny girls, and I ate, but I was on the tennis court for 4 and 5 and sometimes 10 hours a day when there were tournaments. And no one said, you know what, you're a skinny girl. You're just skinny. It's a blessing, you know. No one said, you're just a thin girl. So I went from that, my first day of high school, to weighing about 140 by the end. And I was drinking, I was smoking, I was smoking cigarettes, I was smoking dope, I was trying out other drugs. So just to cut ahead, what happened when I went to college very briefly, it didn't really work out for me. It's a whole nother story, but I had a little bar in my room, which was festive. I thought it was called the Roly-Poly Bar and Grill, because we'd all gained an additional 10 pounds. And I had blackouts, and I came to on the floor of the girls' bathroom. I'd learned bulimia by then. I dropped out. I ended up in a little tiny hippie town on the coast called Bolinas. And my dad and little brother end up there too. I'm there from 20. By then I'm taking LSD, and I discover speed because I never had any money, and meth was very cheap. And then my dad gets sick. I was 23, he was 53, I think. He got brain cancer, and for the next couple of years, my younger brother and I and my dad's girlfriend took care of him, and it was a nightmare. And I developed this battle cry that I use to this day, which is, anyone would understand if I fill in the blanks, right? Anyone. My father, my John Kennedy father, gorgeous and brilliant, truly brilliant, has become a 5-year-old. Anyone would understand why I drink like this. I weighed 109, I remember. And that was really helpful in terms of coming through. And to this day, I've been abstinent with sugar and white flour since the day after Christmas of, let's see, I guess it would be 2001. Last year was 2002. Yeah, it was absent all year. So basically 2002 and this year. But anyone would understand if I get a whole carrot cake at Safeway and I eat all the icing off it in the car, right? Because my best friend dies when I'm sober. I mean, anyone would understand if I got 3 apple fritters and I ate them all and threw up, right? I mean, it's the end of the world. And so from then until I get into recovery, it's basically anyone would understand why I drink, use, eat, binge, starve, throw up, have sex with anybody. All you have to do to have sex with me in my 20s is want to, because all I want is for you to feel better about your life. I'll just tell you a couple stories from the end of my drinking. Okay, one is, I know Bob and Beth have heard this 1,000 times, but so I got off to a really good start with my career. I published at 26, and I'm doing well. I mean, not with money, but the books have been received okay and stuff. And I still think I'm a piece of shit. And I have a relationship with God, but God thinks I'm a piece of shit too. God, it finds me very, very disappointing. And so I'm asked to speak. I think I'm about 29 at the time at the San Francisco Public Library annual fundraiser. It's at a Basque restaurant in North Beach, for those of you who know San Francisco. And I'm just good, kind of extemporaneously, like talking off the top of my hat. So I don't write a speech. And there's like 350 people there, and they've all paid $50 for the library, and I'm the entertainment. So I've smoked the non-habit forming marijuana and had a couple glasses of wine. You know, those 20 questions for alcoholism that say, one of them is, do you ever drink alone? Ha ha. Do you ever not? Should be the question. And do you ever drink before going to a gathering where you know there will be alcohol? How could you enter a gathering without having had a couple drinks? So I've had a couple drinks, and I get there, and I'm with a really fun table, about 8 of us, and no one else drinks like I drink, and I'm drinking like I drink. And the people I'm with are starting to get really worried because the program is about to start, and the waiter comes over and says, does anybody here want another drink before we start the program? And everybody there is kind of panic stricken. They're going, no, you know. And I say, well, I wouldn't mind. So the waiter pours me another glass of the generic red wine that comes in unmarked green bottles. And I raise it to my lips and I take a sip. And that's the last thing I remember until I come to on stage mid-speech. Now, luckily, of course, I haven't written a speech. And the sentence that I'm saying is that I dream of a colorblind world. And 350 people are looking at me going, and, but there's no next sentence. All I have to go on, there's no topic, there's no speech. All I have to go on is a mural that says the San Francisco Public Library thanks you, or something like that. So, you know, I do some riff, and it's funny because not a year. I guess that doesn't get my attention, that I'm in a blackout in a huge crowd. But a few years later, when I get sober, one of the women that was at my table is clean and sober. And she comes up to me, she says, I was there that night at the Basque restaurant. And oh God, I was just mortified. But I say, oh, you know, I think these things are always worse in your memory than they really were at the time. And she goes, no. And there were people there were literary agents had put on the gathering because they'd sucked in writers to be there, namely me. And they didn't speak to me for years because I just wrecked things, you know, I just wreck things when I'm drunk. So anyway, 1986, July 7th, I wake up and my recovery begins, and I'm bulimic at the time. I really want to not go on too much longer because I want to leave time for your questions. But people always say that. I love in meetings of recovery of an anonymous nature when the speaker says, well, I want to keep my drunkalog short because I want to get onto recovery. And then like 17 minutes in, they're just coming out of high school, right? So anyway, I get sober and I hate it. I'm bulimic. I'm emaciated. And all these sober women think they have a way out of the dark night of the soul that I have lived in for so long. They think they have a way for me one day at a time not to drink, which I'm not actually interested in. What I am interested in is learning to drink in a much more elegant way, where I can stick to 6 or 7 social drinks a night and maybe take a random Valium or Halcyon, which we like to take in the 80s, which was a sleeping pill that caused such incredible side effects that actually a woman using halcyon killed her mother in England, in London, and the jury found her innocent because halcyon was so unpredictable. So of course, this won't surprise you, that was my drug of choice. I didn't want sobriety. I just wanted to be able to do the two things that had really helped me my whole life, which were drinking and binging or starving, and trying to save and fix and rescue everybody around me. So there are three programs I end up in. Four actually, because there was also this tiny problem with sex and love addiction, which is to say that I had a very bad picker, and I picked men who I had a lot of good ideas for. And so recovery for me meant this awful thing, which was that I needed to learn. William Blake, the great mystical poet, said, "We are here to learn to endure the beams of love." And that was the hardest work I did, because what I am is a flight attendant and a geisha girl, and I'm good at giving and I'm good at helping you. I'm the helper. And what you all said to me was, thank you for sharing. We can see that. Nothing you think about alcoholism, food, healing, recovery, truth, or life is really of any interest to us. But can we get you a nice cup of tea? And that's what I did. I sat and I drank their tea in the swill, the coffee that they served at these gatherings before the revolution of the late 80s, when we discovered, I think, French roast. And it's a long road back from the sort of self-loathing and shame and disordered eating and self-centeredness and this endless effort to control. You know, we say in one of my programs that help is the sunny side of control. And my go-to is to help you. If I'm feeling rattled or having bad self-esteem, my default is to try to help you. It's a mood altering for me. And I trudged the road of happy destiny, which what I can tell people in recovery from alcoholism, food addiction, or these tiny control issues is that you will have loss and tragedy beyond your wildest dreams, because you know what? That's what a human life looks like. And it also looks like joy and amazement that will leave you with your mouth hanging open, and love unequaled by anything but our pets. through the fellowship, through the people who crazily want to be with us and go to Target more than they want to do anything else that day. People who will pray with us, who will let us pray for them, who will, well, you all know what other people will do, because that's how we are filled up. You know, we think we're filled up by getting more, having more, but we're actually filled up by giving more. I thought of something I wanted to say, but it'll come back. Oh, I know what I was going to say. When I first got sober, a year later, this fancy rich man with a fancy car, very handsome, who I thought had everything, and who ends up going out. But he said, when he got into the program, he'd come into the program as a hot shot, and that the sober brothers had helped him work his way up to servant. And so I have learned that all truth is a paradox, and life is gorgeous, and life is hard, and life is full of delights, and life is messy. And that if I'm empty, I need to give away. I might drive over to the canal, which is a very poor area of this county, and with a couple sacks of food for the food pantry, with a lot of Oreos for the little ones. And I need to stop, and I need to pour love and gentleness and healthy food and actual romantic love into my own self. And so it's, you know, it's hard work to learn to self-love. Is self-forgiveness is the hardest work I've ever done. It's the grad school. And so I do on a daily basis. I get onto my own emotional acre, which they taught me in the program for tiny control freaks. I get on my own emotional acre. I stay off of yours. And I tend to my acre in the way that I, Annie L., want to, not the way that you think would be best, not the way my parents told me made the family look best, but what my soul and my spirit tell me is what will feed me, fuel me, and give me meaning one day at a time. So anyway, I don't have a problem with being generous. You know, that's what I was raised to do, was to give away everything in the hopes that you would love me and like me and think I was of value. And the most precious gift I have to give every day as I go out, after my prayers, after I pee and let the dogs out and find my glasses, is to be the healing that you have so freely given me. And then I'm like a little lighthouse. And lighthouses don't go running all over the island looking for boats to save. They just shine. And it's attraction rather than it's attraction rather than promotion. And so I want to see if you have questions. I do want to give a shout out to the sober travels that Bob and Beth offer. Go to In This Life and travel with us, because one thing you notice on these cruises is how drunk people get. And what you notice on these cruises is that people are eating their body weight in sugar. And you know what? I don't. 3 times a day, I go to these rooms that are like Fellini's Satyricon, and I make up one really healthy abstinent plate of food for myself. You know, I always think, like, if I had my pastor over for lunch, I wouldn't say to him, look, let's eat in the kitchen. Actually, there's no chairs. I got us each our own tube of Pringles, you know? No, if I invite my pastor over, or Tennie, or anyone here, any of you, I would make you a beautiful, healthy plate with a number of colors and textures. There would be grapes, there would be quinoa, there would be protein, there would be salad, avocados, the food of God, the food of heaven. And that's what I do on these cruises. And then we go to meetings and we share that it's really hard for us sometimes being around all that food. It's really hard sometimes watching people have a few glasses of wine and laugh and be happy. And we share it, and we share our really weird, dark thoughts about what we'd secretly like to be doing. And not a soul in those gatherings will say, really? You still think that? After they go, yeah, me too. Same. I could tell Tennie or Beth or Bob, and I mean this literally, anything. And they would go, wow, thank you for trusting me. You know, I was there the other day and I went to a meeting, or I called my best friend, or I went for a walk, or I went to Target with my best friend, with my sponsor, with whatever. And so let's sit together after the meeting, because I know a couple things that work, and what I especially know is a couple things that don't work, which is mood altering, which is shopping, which is whatever. So join us. Join us in healing, join us in fellowship, join us in these programs, join us on our cruises, because one day at a time, all of us who have any time at all can tell you that we have sprinkled this dust on the chairs you're sitting on, and it is coming into your being, your body, your soul, your spirit, and it's the dust of healing. And it is going to be available to you one day at a time if you don't drink, use, binge, starve, or control. And all we ask is that you give it away to other people.